Welcome back to The Takeout. As we mentioned at the top of the program, the manhunt continues for Charlie Kirk's killer. And the political world continues to react to the staggering nature, shocking events around his death. His colleagues and friends, of course, on a separate track, grappling with their own personal loss. Among them is Jack Posobiec. He is a contributor for Turning Point USA and was a very close friend of Charlie's. Jack, let me just say off the top, I'm sorry. I appreciate your time. I'd like you to share with my audience what you want them to know about Charlie.
Well, Major, thanks so much for your kind words and give me the opportunity to talk about my friend, because, you know, there's the Charlie Kirk that everybody knows. You see him on TikTok, you see him on these debate clips, you see him on these memes, but that's not the only side of Charlie. Charlie is loyal to a fault. Charlie is generous with his time. Charlie is always there anytime, day or night, to help you out with anything. He had a laugh. He had a sense of humor. He was always good-natured. And the idea that someone could take him away so quickly when he was just becoming a father and becoming the husband and the man that he'd always wanted to become is unbelievable. It's completely unbelievable. And, you know, I remember last year after the events of Butler with President Trump, I talked to Charlie about this and my military background and pointed out, I said, you're never going to be able to completely secure these events. And Charlie said, I can't stop. I'm not going to stop.
What was the motivating factor in the end for Charlie? Was it politics or was it something bigger than a political party or a political moment in time?
You know, Charlie was a deeply devout Christian, and this is something that I think in the political space can really get lost. But privately, Charlie and I spoke more about the Bible, about scripture, about theology, more than almost anything else. I think that really was his sole driving factor. His wife, Erica, is incredibly devout. It's something that she talks about and speaks about all across the country, and I know it's going to be on that faith that she's relying right now.
And Jack, with that perspective, and I know that there are several people in Washington who are part of a text chain that Charlie had with Bible verses on an almost daily basis. If Charlie were with us, and I know he's with you in spirit and many others who admired him, and if he were to, as a thought experiment, try to explain to people what the Bible should tell them about their reaction to this moment, do you believe it would be more Old Testament or more New Testament?
You know, Charlie was a big fan of the Old Testament. Charlie was a deep, deep believer in the Old Testament, and I think he would say that you need to read them both, you need to put them together. But there was a quote he had on his desk that somebody just sent me a picture of that said, it's Micah 6:8. He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God. So be true, be kind, but be just. And justice needs to be done here.
It has been said, Jack, that Charlie was a happy warrior, and that was meant as a compliment. Was he, from your perspective? And if you can think of a way to help illustrate that for my audience to remember, what would that be?
Well, you know, I think that was true, and just a great example of something that happened, you know, really just a couple of weeks ago. I remember Charlie sends me a message. He says, Jack, you know, it looks like I'm going to be on the South Park. I'm going to be in the new South Park episode. I said, what do you mean? And he sent me the press release, and I said, oh boy, let's strap in. We'll see how this goes. And we saw the episode when it came out and some of the early clips, and he thought it was the funniest thing, and he embraced it completely. And he said he actually made the little picture they made of him as his profile picture online, and he thought it was hilarious. And he was a good sport, and he had a good laugh about everything. And that's just who Charlie was. Not Charlie, the man you see in front of the camera, but that was Charlie, my friend.
And very briefly, Jack, he enjoyed, as I gather it and have read, the engagement, the back and forth, and he wasn't intimidated by people who disagreed with him. He actually was kind of energized by that. Do I have that about right?
oh, if you went to one of these events, he would say every time, if you disagree, come to the front of the line. If you disagree, if you have something that that I've said that you disagree with, come to the front of the line, because that's who I want to talk to first. So that was what he went for. He wanted to have that repartee. He wanted to have that debate. He wanted to get into it with people who came from the other side of the aisle or perhaps a different walk of life. And he wanted to connect with them. And I think he really did connect with a lot of people. And I think that's why you saw the movement build around him the way that you did, and the way that we've never seen a conservative be able to do so on campus before.
Jack Posobiec, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your thoughts and perspectives very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to The Takeout. As we've been discussing, Charlie Kirk's motivation in politics was to bring young people into the dialogue and to become more politically active than they otherwise would be. And he did that through an organization called Turning Point USA, a group he founded while a college student in 2012. As you might have heard, Charlie never finished college, but that group he founded now has more than 800 chapters on college campuses and more than 1,000 high school groups. When Charlie Kirk was fatally shot at Utah Valley University, he was engaged in one of his, quote, prove me wrong, unquote, debates in which he invites others in the audience to challenge his point of view in a face-to-face format. Here is but one example of how that played out.
You don't have a right to murder another human being.
It's not necessarily a right. It's just the ability to.
So when your brother was in your mom's womb, was your brother a human being?
I mean, I don't want to argue that. I think that we could argue
about that. It's not an argument. It's a question. When your brother was in,
useful.
When your brother was in the womb, was it a human being?
I believe that on my moral compass, I believe that he was.
Joining me now, Dylan Burns, Stella Ross, and Christian Martin. Dylan is president of the Indiana University's Republican Club. Stella is a member of that club. They are on the Zoom together. Christian is the vice president of the University of Alabama's Democratic Club. He's in his own Zoom box. And I have been assured by Dylan and Stella they will not gang up on Christian in our conversation. I want to clear that up at the top. Dylan, I want to start with you. What did Charlie Kirk mean to you politically, personally?
Absolutely. Charlie wasn't just a leader to me. He was somebody who impacted the lives of countless individuals and inspired an entire generation of young conservatives like myself and Stella that are really trying to work to advance the movement of young conservatives and bring his message to the masses. And I want to say that our hearts and our sorrows are with Charlie and his family during this time as we all grieve together.
Stella, as you know, there are lots of voices out there. What made Charlie special and important to you?
Charlie was doing things that other Republicans weren't. He was going on to college campuses and he was engaging with our generation specifically. And he's what really moved the vote in the 2024 election. And we saw that from the polling data. Charlie came on to college campuses and he had civil discourse with us as students and inspired a generation to get out, and speak our minds.
Christian, I want to turn to you. You went to a Charlie Kirk event. Tell me what your reflections were on that event and your thoughts today.
Well, I have to say, I could see the effectiveness of Mr. Kirk. This was when I was a senior in high school. He came to the university because I'm from Northport, Alabama, which is a suburb of Tuscaloosa where we're located. But I could see where Mr. Kirk was really doing a great job of drawing people in, especially young men that might be politically disaffiliated, and how he was very engaging, especially in this modern digital age. I mean, I have profound disagreements with the man, obviously on policy, amongst other things. We could say theology as a fellow Christian, but at the end of the day, he was very skilled at what he did, very convincing, especially in like short form format. And at the end of the day, this is just heartbreaking. You know, there's a woman widowed. There are two small children that saw their father die in front of their eyes. And to quote State Representative, but a candidate for the United States Senate, Mr. James Tallarico of Texas, you know, we might have policy disagreements, but there's a child of God that has passed away in front of our eyes, sort of to paraphrase him, but it's really a heartbreaking event in my heart and the hearts of everyone at UA's college Democrats, and I'm sure really the vast majority of everyone across the political spectrum, across this nation and this great republic of ours, really mourn for Mr. Kirk.
Christian, you're involved in conversations among your friends. And for those friends who heard something from Charlie Kirk, what do you think they heard, and what do you think other Democrats ought to take away from his persuasiveness?
Well, first off, I think we can take away kind of the way we need to engage with young people, because a lot of times I think certain Democrats almost have like a, without meaning to, almost like a tendency to over intellectualize and kind of preach at instead of talk to people. And I think we can take a lot of that from Mr. Kirk. Also, a lot of my friends on the right, especially like I know fraternity brothers that really engaged with him, just like found him very persuasive in the fact that he kind of almost tried to entertain alongside like persuade, and he was very good at that. He was very good at using kind of emotion to connect with like his viewers and all. So yeah.
Dylan and Stella, I want to throw that question to you now. What in your circles did Charlie Kirk represent, mean, and what was his particular persuasive power?
I think that's a great question. And kind of to touch on what Christian said, the fact that Christian had said that Republicans and Charlie Kirk, he's talking to, I would actually argue that that's what the Democrats were doing. The Democrats were talking to voters. Liberals were talking to voters, telling them what they think they should be hearing. Charlie Kirk, in my opinion, didn't talk to voters. He connected with voters, connected with young individuals like ourselves. And I think that that is what helped him build the base and build the foundation that obviously put him in Turning Point in the spotlight that it was. And because he was connecting with voters, that's why he was so effective. That's why he was able to get on campuses across the country and draw out thousands of supporters across campuses and get them engaged and get them involved in politics.
Stella, if you were to try to explain that difference between to and with in communication, how would you break that down?
He stepped foot on college campuses when other people wouldn't, and he had open dialogue with us as students. And he took each conversation to heart, and he sat there for hours with each student and debated them on their views, heard them out, heard the other side, and he was able to really form that connection with us, which helped form his movement and helped inspire us as young voters.
Stella and Dylan, this is not an easy question to answer. How are you going to carry this forward? What does this awful event mean to you personally in terms of your continued involvement?
I think it's something that we're all still processing, to be completely honest. Seeing somebody so youthful and vigorous taken from us way too soon, a father and a husband, it is unspeakable. And it's the mission of individuals like Stella and myself and conservatives and Republicans across campuses all across this country to realize that while Charlie's voice might have been silenced, this is only a moment for us to be empowered and for us to use our own voice to speak out and support Charlie and his movement.
And having our club on campus allows conservative students here to have a voice and find a place where they can connect with people who share the same values and beliefs as them. And we can help give them a support system. We're all hurting right now, and we extend all of our condolences to Erica and to the Kirk family. I cannot imagine losing a father and losing my husband.
Christian, I want to give you the last word. That's not an easy thing to put on your shoulders, but I want you to either speak to Dylan and Stella or to my audience about what's on your heart.
Yeah, well, first off, I just want to apologize for any misinterpretation. I was saying talking to in kind of like the meaning of connecting with as opposed to like talking at. But beside the point, I just want to say to anyone hurting out there, Republican, Democrat, friend of Charlie Kirk, just bystander that's been kind of traumatized by seeing this event, to the first responders, to the medical personnel, to Mr. Kirk's children, to Mr. Kirk's widow that I'm praying for you. I've been praying for y'all. I've prayed rosaries, Hail Marys for y'all. My heart goes out to y'all, and my heart grieves for y'all and for this republic, because just like with the Minnesota violence we saw against the Democrats in the state legislature there, this country has no room for violence. And that's how you get with political violence. That's how our republic degenerates into the Weimar Republic or into the fall of the Roman Republic. And so it's heartbreaking and heart-wrenching to watch. And so I just
Christian,
ask everyone to, if you're a praying person, pray. If not, just think about our republic and try to work to engage in dialogue across the aisle in a respectful manner.
Christian Martin, Dylan Burns, Stella Ross, thank you very much for your time.
And let's bring in now political commentator Stephen Alikara. He is the founder of Future Caucus. It's a nonpartisan organization of young elected leaders in the U.S., and he joins us there from Washington. Stephen, you knew Charlie Kirk throughout these years from moderating and participating in multiple political debates together. What was your reaction to learning this news yesterday?
Well, it was horrific. I know a number of people in Charlie's inner circle, and so I got the news pretty early on. And I immediately thought about the many spirited debates that we had over the years. And Charlie was doing what he loved doing, which was getting into the mix of debate on a college campus, and he was shot and killed for doing that. And I think this moment needs to call us to a better kind of politics in our country, where we embrace the idea of constructive disagreement. America is the most diverse country in human history, and it requires us to have these kind of debates. And I think one thing we had with Charlie in these debates over the years was a spirit of fun and joy. I mean, we came up in very different political movements and disagreed vehemently on a number of issues. But the idea of engaging in these conversations across the left and right was something that we both enjoyed doing very much.
And Stephen, there's been plenty of discourse in these past 24 hours. Some, including the president, are blaming what they're calling the radical left for this shooting, despite no motive yet being released. What does this reaction and the reaction overall tell us about the state of politics right now in this country?
Well, right now, I think we are unfortunately creeping towards what I would call a cold civil war that is even getting hot at times. And there is what I call a division industrial complex that is making a lot of money on making us hate each other all the time. And I think for our country to succeed over time, all of us who are watching this program right now need to ask ourselves, how do we want to respond? And I think we need to channel what Robert Kennedy said in 1968 when there was another set of political assassinations, which is to really channel an effort to understand, to listen, to empathize, and understand people who hear what I'm saying right now and say, well, how do I have those conversations with people who are so different than me, who are so extreme, who might even deny my own existence? And I understand those concerns, but I think one of the greatest weapons we have to the political divide right now is humanizing people who are different than us. And with Charlie, I had the chance to do that in a number of green rooms and get to know him as a human being first. And I think that really helped the quality of the debates that we had together.
Then, Stephen, in your opinion, what needs to be done to keep this peace between people on both sides of the aisle? I know you mentioned they're having these conversations with Charlie Kirk. How do you go about having some potentially heated political debates without it resulting in violence?
Well, I think first, just recognize that it's okay to disagree, and it's okay to passionately disagree. It's okay to have the kind of energy and conviction around your political views. But I grew up as a musician, and I like to use a musical analogy to describe the kind of bridge building and political discourse I believe in. And that's what you really see in the spirit of jazz music, because in jazz, it's all about listening. It's about being fully present in conversations. It's about inviting each other's full lived experiences to the conversation. And it's about call and response, a true riffing on ideas. And I think American democracy at its best is like a jazz ensemble that's trying to play music, often from very disparate influences. And so that would be my main message today, is let's approach our political discourse like a jazz musician might.
An apt metaphor. Stephen Alikara, thank you very much for joining us today.
Welcome back. Charlie Kirk never worked in the Trump White House, first term or second term. He didn't need to. He had a lot of connections, spoke with the president frequently, interacted with members of the president's family and his larger political operation, and he influenced things from rhetoric to personnel. Earlier today, I spoke with former White House Principal Deputy Press Secretary Harrison Fields. Here's that conversation. Harrison, a lot of my audience is just getting to get a sense of who Charlie Kirk was. From your vantage point and within the vantage point of the Trump White House, how would you describe his influence and role?
Massive. But beyond the influence, behind the Charlie Kirk conservative activists, we got to boil it down to something more pure, something that you are, that I am, a father, a husband, an American, someone that loved his country, someone who decided to, instead of just talk behind a microphone, decided to do something brave with courage. He said, I'm going to go into the belly of the beast and talk to people that disagree with me. That seems like a foreign concept now, but that's who Charlie Kirk was. And above all the things I just mentioned, he was a Christian. He was a man of deep and profound faith. I was talking earlier today, and I said, you would go to a Turning Point event, you would go in trying to maybe become a conservative, and you left a conservative and also a Christian, because he made sure he spoke about his faith. He was an unapologetic Christian, something that in this day and age, so many people are moving away from. It's taboo to talk about Christianity. It's taboo to talk about Jesus. And he said, no. First and foremost, I'm a Christian. And then what did he do to push younger generations? Get married, have children. I'm a young dad. My daughter's about to be 1. I got married about the same time Charlie got married. This is what it's all about. And at his foundation, he said, take away all the accolades. Take away it all. My most important treasure in life is being a dad and a husband. That's who Charlie Kirk was.
And when you said the word massive in terms of his influence, articulate that for me in a way that goes beyond that adjective.
Yeah. This last election, we saw what we were able to do when it comes to the younger generations, especially younger men. I come from a mixed bag of friends, extremely progressive, extremely conservative, some that are just don't care about politics. The people in the middle used to send me Charlie Kirk's videos. Wow. Do you know this guy? What do you think? This is great. He changed my friends' minds after years of my attempts of trying to change their minds. All they needed to do was listen to Charlie Kirk. He had a level of passion, of honesty and conviction in his words that it didn't take Harrison Fields to let my friends know what the conservative message was. It took Charlie Kirk. And he took that, that method, that way of executing the conservative agenda to millions of people. Undoubtedly, the president talked about it too. He helped the president get back into the White House. Look at Arizona. Look at what he was doing. And look at what he was prepared to do. This was one stop, the first stop of many of this cycle of college tours. And because of his impact, they don't kill people that don't have an impact. Because of his impact, because of what the other side, and I'm not speaking directly to the Democratic Party, but for the sinister demonic people on the of the other side, let's just say it that way, they knew he was a threat, and they took him out. And we're worse for it as a country.
Are you saying that specifically or generally? They, Democratic Party, demonic people? Because we don't know anything or very much about the perpetrator.
Right. But the thing about it, and this is why I like having on the conversations, and I appreciate you having me on, we've got to be real about what this moment is. You have someone that doesn't espouse the values of Charlie Kirk. Let's just be real. This is not a conservative who committed this crime. It would be a disservice to the viewers for me to come here and try to be like, well, we don't know the facts. That is true. We don't know the facts. But one thing we can say, this person didn't like Charlie Kirk. This person wasn't a conservative. This person probably wasn't a Christian. He hated everything Charlie Kirk stood for. That is a problem. We should be able to engage in dialogue like the one we're having now without feeling like that could be a death sentence. Listen, like I said earlier, I have a 1-year-old, almost 1-year-old. She doesn't know what her dad does. I have a somewhat public platform. Right. Going to work every single day, leaving CBS after here should not be a death sentence.
No, it should not.
Because of my conservative
views. For you or
views.
for me.
Or you. And we need to get back to a place in America where we can disagree. Listen, my sister is completely opposite of me.
Politically.
Politically. Bernie, she wants Zohran Mamdani to get elected in New York City. And I'm the complete opposite. But when I look at this, and why can't
and
we
you're still a cohesive family.
Still a cohesive family. And the point I was about to make is, why can't we just make it the Thanksgiving dinner table? It's messy. It gets complicated. Someone may get up out of the table, but at the end of the day, you're around the family table. Why can't we get back to that family table of the United States of America, where Uncle Bob is going to be very different than Aunt Karen, and my mom is going to be very different than her siblings. But at the end of the day, we all share the same identity, the same blood, which is red, white, and blue. We need to get back there.
Harrison Fields, I appreciate you coming in very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.